coming back from Thanksgiving and getting right into the Christmas spirit here with Advent, and we're already 2 weeks deep. So watching the lighting of the candle today was a little bit nerve-wracking, but
can we talk about that for a moment, please?
we can.
We went to a church that we don't normally go to, and they are currently having to have their church services in a gym. And the gym has, sometimes when you're in spaces like that, big piping at the top. I'm just trying to paint a picture for people. You're looking at me like I'm insane. Do you want to be able to tell the story? Because the way that this wreath was hanging is insane.
Yeah, I guess the best way to explain it is, so there's a church near us, and part of the reason that we wound up going there today is because we both had a bit of a late night, and it's been as such the past couple days this weekend. So Friday was late for both of us, and then Saturday night was late for both of us, and we typically like going to mass on Sunday mornings rather early, and it just didn't work out today. So we wound up going to a church that's closer to us, and they are in the process of building a new church. So in the meantime, they're celebrating mass in a gymnasium. And so if you can picture what Jessie was saying about the gymnasium, the top of the building is a bunch of rafters, for lack of a better term. There's a lot of almost like steel beams and things like that at the very top of the structure rather than like what you would normally see. And
It's like they didn't close in the top of the ceiling, so you can see everything that would normally be like closed in above you.
right. It's like you're having mass in a gymnasium. So anyways, having said that, it's difficult probably. Actually, you know what? I take that back. It's probably not difficult. I think most normal places have a Advent
standing,
wreath.
Like little stand that you move out and you put the wreath on top.
100%.
Even if it's got to be a small one, but they went big.
It's almost like somebody said, you know what? Let's turn the Advent wreath into a chandelier, like piece, and just elevate it from the ceiling. But it's not elevated from the ceiling by any single cable. It's like a cable coming down from the ceiling.
No, it's a chain. It's a huge chain in the middle coming down to hold it in the middle. And then
you have multiple cables or chains connected to the wall to kind of like keep it steady. So it wouldn't move like you would say like a chandelier.
But you're saying the word cable, and that sounds more secure. These were like, if you picture like see-through like twine, like it looks like it could snap in like an instant. And then the person going to light it.
Yeah, well, that was the other thing, right? So mass started out by father saying, such and such family is going to help us light the candle today. So the entire family walks up underneath this floating Advent wreath.
That's like 12 feet in the air or more. And
they're using one of the, typically what the altar servers use in order to light the candles around the altar. But if you've ever seen one of these, and shame on me for not remembering the name of these because I know they have a specific name, but
because you were an altar server,
just to keep everybody's imagination going. Imagine the wick doesn't come out of the side of this instrument straight. It's kind of crooked or bent, if you will.
Almost
so you
looks
light
like
this,
one of those staffs, like the old timey staffs, but it's made of metal.
Right, and one side basically has a wick that you light in order to light candles, and then the other side snuffs the candle out. But there's a specific name for this, and it's killing me right now because I can't remember it. But this poor guy, the father of this family, is in front of all of the church trying to awkwardly light this floating Advent wreath that's hovering over the congregation like UFO, like a giant Christmas UFO.
That at any moment looks like one of those little tiny strings. If they snap, the whole thing would go whoosh to either side.
And you could hear a pin drop. Everybody just fixated, right? And this poor guy, he's not getting it lit.
Mm-hmm.
And you can kind of hear Father going, oh, maybe if you just turn it this way, maybe if you just do this. And then he finally lights them and they look lit.
Yes.
And then,
But the at the same time, I'm concerned about these tiny see-through pieces of twine holding the sides up of this floating Advent wreath. And as he's trying to light it from my angle, it looks like the flame could hit one of those. I'm sure it's bigger if I were to walk up to it. I want to hope that it's bigger to hold up that like weight, but it looks like the flame could start burning it. And there's some movie that I must be thinking of, like where you like burn something and then it starts off. And that's what I keep picturing happening, where the string breaks and the wreath just goes whoosh.
all right, this thing is called a candle lighter. Sorry, I had to go.
That's all.
I know. Technically, it is called an emunctorium. Emunctorium?
Does it
Anyhow.
have the word crematorium in it?
EMUCTORIUM.
I'm not going to try to picture that in my brain. It's too long. I'm sure that somebody else that knows what's going on and knows the word is screaming it, but to us, this is new information.
Imunctorium.
Interesting. Wonder where that word comes from. Not that we need to figure that out.
Stemming from Latin for to wipe one's nose.
What?
Very interesting. Well, anyhow.
What does that have to do with wiping our nose? Is it a
Probably
joke?
something along the lines of snuffing out the candle, wiping one's nose.
Sniffles.
Yeah. But it was kind of fascinating to watch this. And I actually had minor anxiety the entirety of Mass because I'm just watching this.
People are sitting below this thing too.
Yeah, they could die.
It's not like
And it
at
was a
any
Christmas
instant.
miracle that they didn't. So,
for 4 weeks.
yep.
4 weeks of Advent.
You
Those
take your
people
life
are
in your
take
hands.
Exactly. I was going to say the
Yep.
exact same thing. And it was really funny too, because when we sat down, I went, wow, that is a dangerous Advent wreath to you. And then I thought to myself, surely they're not going to light those candles. It's just for show while they're waiting for the church to be built. No, they lit those candles.
Some people have a strange sense of humor.
I mean, I couldn't stop laughing. Like,
I don't know.
because I wasn't in danger, I could laugh.
Some people anticipate the celebration of Christmas. Others celebrate the near avoidance of death by Advent wreath.
Advent wreath.
So there you go.
I wonder if anybody who goes to the church talks about that. Especially today, that family's got to be talking about it, because the priest did say their name. And now the whatever family will light the 2 candles on the Advent wreath.
But it was probably less exciting than this conversation has been.
Like we made it more exciting?
Yeah.
No.
They probably went home and they were like, boy, that was really difficult to light. And that probably was the end of the conversation.
The mom was laughing as the dad was trying to light it. That made me
He was a pretty
made
tall
me
guy,
laugh,
too.
That's
But
probably why they picked him.
Yeah, it's true.
A short man would just add to the danger.
Also true.
Actually, it's surprising that they didn't pick a shorter person.
Or a ladder. Or do it before Mass started so everybody wasn't watching in
Or
abject horror.
Or have the person swoop in also on a cable to light it.
Just hire one of your brothers to do it.
Our brothers are tall, for anyone listening who might not know that.
So to transition into December and today, and, you know, Jessie and I have had this conversation a million times now where it's like you have Halloween and the second Halloween is over, it's just a blur.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly, you know, it's played out yet again here, because we were talking about Thanksgiving plans, and then all of a sudden it was the week of Thanksgiving, and then all of a sudden it was Thanksgiving, and now it's halfway through December.
So we wanted to take a moment
Maybe
to
not halfway through December, but it's moving awfully quickly.
by the time this episode comes out, it will be halfway through because it'll be the 14th of December.
Right.
And we're recording it a week early, but I wanted to, we wanted to look back on the past 2 weeks. So when you're listening to this episode, the 2 weeks prior is what we're going to focus on with various saint and feast days.
Yeah, December is jam-packed with not only days for saints, but feast days that are significant, especially the one that's coming up tomorrow when this episode is being recorded. So tomorrow would be December the 8th. So we wanted to cover a couple of these because some of them are rather interesting. So
yeah,
I'll just start right off with December 3rd, which was already the beginning of the week. Just crazy. And that's St. Francis Xavier. And for anybody that doesn't already know, St. Francis Xavier was born on April 7th, 1506, and he died on December 3rd, 1552. He was a close friend of St. Ignatius of Loyola, and he was one of the church's greatest missionaries in the 16th century. Francis was among the first members of the Society of Jesus, also known as the Jesuits. This is interesting because where I am in Charlotte and where I work in Charlotte, anytime that I have a moment free or I want to clear my head, there's a church down the street, St. Peter's, which is a Jesuit church. So that's typically where I find myself. Just if I want to go sit for a few minutes in a pew or go to confession or for tomorrow's holy day, I probably will make my way over to St. Peter's.
I also had a friend sent me something from them that they have a local group of spiritual advisors. And I thought that was interesting because I was talking to a couple of friends who have had spiritual advisors. And I'm like, how have you gone about that process? And one of them sent me a link for that church. And apparently they have a pretty big group of it. And I said, well, that must be something that the Jesuits focus on. She was like, yup.
Makes sense.
So I learned something new.
The Jesuit priests are particularly devoted to evangelization and missionary work, and Francis was said to be among the most energetic and successful Jesuits in the mission field. He traveled to India, modern-day Sri Lanka, and the Malaya Peninsula, Japan, and dreamed of visiting China. His genuine interest in local customs and languages made him many friends, and he showed compassionate care for the suffering and the needy. When he traveled to Japan, he formed a small but strong group of Christians whose strength and piety would inspire generations during periods of severe persecution of Japanese Christians that would follow. I would say for anybody that's interested in that subject matter, I probably mentioned on it a couple times during this podcast, but when my brother Colin moved down from Rochester, New York, one of the things he wanted to do is just to continue to engage in community wrapped around faith with other young men our age. And in order to do that, what we ended up doing was starting a book club that we would have from month to month. But the first book that we actually all read together was Silence, which was also made into a Martin Scorsese film, but it focuses heavily on the Jesuits in Japan and just what hardships there are as far as being a Catholic in Japan during this time was. So it was very tumultuous, and it's why when we say something like periods of severe persecution, I mean, it's awful torture that Catholics and Christians went through. So I just wanted to put a little bit of a finer point on that and point to, if you wanted to learn more about that, I think that is just a great read. So St. Francis Xavier dreamed of visiting China, which at the same time Francis was alive was closed to all Westerners. So he hatched a plan with a merchant who agreed to smuggle him into the country But before they could carry out their plan, Francis became quite ill with a fever. He died just a few weeks later at the age of 46 and has been estimated he baptized as many as 30,000 people during his 11 years as a missionary.
Can't believe he did that. So many people in only 11 years.
Yeah. 46 is just like a blink of an eye.
Exactly. The next saint that we wanted to mention is Saint Nicholas. His feast day is December the 6th, and we think he was alive from around 280 AD to 343 AD. Saint Nicholas was the bishop of Myra in what is now Turkey. He's also called Nicholas the Wonder Worker. He's known for his many miracles, as well as being the inspiration for the popular figure we all know as Santa Claus. When St. Nicholas was young, his parents both passed away. Nicholas began giving away his family wealth to those in need. One of the most famous stories about St. Nicholas is how at night he snuck 3 bags of gold into the home of 3 young women who were without dowries. A dowry is money necessary to be married in those days. And after this gift from St. Nicholas, the girls were able to marry. In the Netherlands, St. Nicholas is called Sinterklaas, and there is a particular devotion to him there. Traditionally, he visits on his feast day and brings gifts for all good children, placing treats in their shoes that they put out for him. In America, the name Santa Claus, who's said to visit the homes on Christmas Eve with gifts. And side story that I didn't know until Ryan's brother, who's also named Nicholas, chimed into a family group chat. It's popular legend, but not confirmed for sure, historical event. There's a rumor that St. Nicholas slapped or punched Arius, a heretic at the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD, for denying Christ's divinity, symbolizing Nicholas's zealous defense of his faith. Whether true or not, funny to picture.
So part of the reason that this is funny to me is last night, actually, my mom was saying this to my nephew, was telling him the story, but I've always appreciated it. And just to give a little bit more context around it. So the way that this shaped up, or the story happened, is in AD 325, Emperor Constantine convened the Council of Nicaea. And it was the very first ecumenical council, right? So more than 300 bishops came from all over the Christian world to debate the nature of the Holy Trinity. And it was one of the church's most intense theological questions. So Arius, who was from Egypt, was teaching that Jesus the Son was not equal to God the Father. Arius forcefully argued his position at length, and the bishops listened respectfully. As Arius vigorously continued, Nicholas became more and more agitated, and finally he could no longer bear what he believed was essentially being attacked. So the outraged Nicholas got up, crossed the room, and slapped Arius across the face. The bishops were shocked.
A slap is more fun than a punch. I really hope it was a slap if it happened.
It was unbelievable that a bishop would lose cool and be so hot-headed in such a solemn assembly. They brought Nicholas to Constantine. Constantine said even though it was illegal for anyone to strike another in his presence, in this case, the bishops themselves must determine the punishment. So the bishops stripped Nicholas of his bishop's garments, chained him, and threw him into jail. That would keep Nicholas away from the meeting. When the council ended, a final decision would be made about his future. Ashamed and praying for forgiveness, Nicholas, though he did not waver in his belief, laid there during the night. Jesus and Mary, his mother, appeared, asking, "Why are you in jail?" "Because of my love for you," Nicholas replied. Jesus then gave the book of the Gospels to Nicholas. Mary gave him an amophrion, so Nicholas would again be dressed as a bishop. Now at peace, Nicholas studied the scriptures for the rest of the night. When the jailer came in the morning, he found the chains loose on the floor and Nicholas dressed in bishop's robes, quietly reading the scriptures. When Constantine was told of this, the emperor asked that Nicholas be freed. Nicholas was then fully reinstated as the bishop of Myra. The Council of Nicaea agreed with Nicholas's views, as would anybody after seeing something like that, and then deciding the question against Arius. The work of the council preceded the Nicene Creed, which to this day many Christians repeat weekly when they stand to say what they believe. So that is the story of the slap heard around the world.
Good job.
Coming up on December 7th, and a saint that is close to our heart is Saint Ambrose of Milan. And Saint Ambrose was alive from 339 to 397 AD. And so Saint Ambrose was a bishop of Milan. His preaching was instrumental in the conversion and baptism of the young Saint Augustine of Hippo, which is our nephew's name.
And godson.
A pivotal event in the history of Christian thought. He was a theologian. His writings and sermons on topics such as the sacraments, ethics, and the Trinity earned him this prestigious title as a doctor of the church. He was a powerful and effective preacher, which earned him the nickname the honey-tongued doctor. His skills were also used to defend the church in public and in court.
We've talked previously about how he's the patron saint of beekeepers.
Right. and also a composer, apparently. He was credited with composing hymns such as the Te Deum and for the development of the Ambrosian chant.
Which you could look up. You don't have to read the Te Deum if you don't want to, but I just put it in there in case you did.
It's pretty cool. Maybe we can put it in the show notes.
Okay.
He was also an advocate, famously confronting Emperor Theodosius over the massacre of civilians, which was an event that demonstrated his willingness to stand up to civil authority for the good of the church and its people. And last, but certainly not least, St. Ambrose was an influencer. He introduced Lectio Divina, or meditative reading of Scripture, to the Latin Church, which is huge. So the Lectio Divina has 4 parts. Lectio, meaning reading the Bible passage slowly several times. The passage itself is not as important as savoring each portion of the reading, constantly listening for the still, small voice of a word or phrase that speaks to the practitioner. Meditatio, reflecting on the passage and thinking about how it applies to one's life. The practitioner pays special attention to feelings that arise in ways that God is speaking. Oratio, responding to the passage by praying and opening the heart to God. This is seen at the beginning of a conversion.
Conversation.
This is seen as the beginning of a conversation with God. Some practitioners of Lectio Divina keep a journal to record their prayers to God and God's messages to them. And then finally, contemplatio, contemplating on all that was learned. This step involves sitting in silence, resting in God's presence, and experiencing union with Christ. St. Ambrose was a defender of the poor and vulnerable, advocating for their rights and using his position to negotiate with civil authorities on their behalf. So a very, very significant saint.
Yes. And the name of our baby, that's why it's important. You said it had a special place in our hearts, and that's why.
That's right.
Baby that we lost. I feel like that could be confusing if I say our baby and not. Anyways. Tomorrow for us, as we're recording this, today's September 7th, but December the 8th is the Feast of the Immaculate Conception. For us Catholics, it's also a day of holy obligation where we're asked to attend Mass. After hundreds of years of debate by theologians, in 1854, the Catholic Church finally affirmed the belief that Mary had been granted a very special grace. She had been preserved from original sin by an effect of her own child's death and resurrection to come. In other words, she was born in the same sinless state as God had created Adam and Eve. One of the many titles that we have for our Mother Mary is the New Eve. With her yes to God, she brings healing to a world injured by sin, giving us the new Adam, her son, Jesus Christ. We can learn from her as through her whole life, Mary preserved her sinless nature by always asking and seeking and following what God asked of her, using her free will to choose only what is good.
It's going to be interesting because that same Jesuit church I talked about a little while ago, just to reiterate, is probably where I will wind up going to Mass tomorrow.
We can compare notes because we'll probably go to two different churches.
Yeah, and I'm sure that the homilies will be wildly different. I have to figure out a way with work and church. For example, if you're Muslim, I would think that at noon and then at 3:00, I believe that's when they say their prayers. They have to be able to do that, and nobody can say anything about it.
I think that's correct. But I also think that there are exceptions made. We should ask our friend about that. But I do think that in certain circumstances when you can't pray or, it's like almost impossible, then there are exceptions made.
Well, the point I want to make is I think that, as this being part of a requirement for our faith, you should be given an hour at the very least, when there's a holy day of obligation so that you can go and attend that.
It's hard and it's not possible for you.
It's going to be stressful because I'm going to have to go and immediately run back. There's no, you know. Anywho, just a side note there. I don't want to get stuck on that.
It is hard. I'm mentally trying to figure out how to fit it into my day tomorrow. Am I going before work or after? Because I don't know that I could go in the middle of the day.
9th and the 12th of December are huge days for the Catholic Church. So we get to talk about Juan Diego and Our Lady of Guadalupe. Juan Diego was born in 1474 near what is now Mexico City. When he was 50 years old, he and his wife were among the first native Mexicans to be baptized by Spanish missionaries. His wife passed away not long after she became a Christian. In 1531, Juan Diego was walking to Mass over Tepeyac Hill. He saw a beautiful woman who seemed to be shining with an unearthly light. The woman told him she was Mary, the Mother of God, and that she wanted to tell the bishop to build a chapel on that very spot so that those in need could pray there for her aid and comfort. Juan Diego dutifully went to the bishop, who told Juan Diego to come back another day when he had time to consider the request. Juan Diego returned to Tepeyac Hill, and the beautiful lady was there again. He shared what the bishop had said with her, and added that the bishop would probably be more likely to listen to someone of greater importance and education than he. The lady replied that Juan Diego was the one she had chosen for the task. Juan Diego then went back to the bishop a second time and explained Mary's request again. This time the bishop demanded some kind of sign that this mysterious woman was really the Mother of God. Juan Diego again went back to Tepeyac Hill and told Mary what the bishop had said. She promised that if he returned the following day, she would have a sign for the bishop. The following day, Juan Diego's uncle fell very ill, and there was no one else to care for him other than Juan Diego. He stayed with his uncle all that day and did not return to Tepeyac Hill. The next morning, it seemed uncertain. His uncle was dying. So Juan Diego went to get a priest for the anointing of the sick. And because he was embarrassed for not having gone to Tepeyac to see Mary, he tried to go another way and avoid the hill entirely. Mary still appeared before him and asked where he was going. He sheepishly explained what had happened, and Mary chastised him gently for not coming to her with his trouble. She then told Juan Diego his uncle had been completely cured of his illness. Mary then instructed Juan Diego to go to a particularly rocky part of the hill, gather roses that he would find there. Even though the ground was rough and it was not the right time of year for roses, he found a great number of them, carrying them in his tilma, a cloak worn tied around the neck. Mary then asked him to carry the roses in his tilma to the bishop and show them to no one along the way. Juan Diego went to the bishop immediately and said he had the sign he requested from Mary. He opened his tilma, and the roses fell to the ground. But the greatest miracle was that on the tilma was an image we all know as the image of Our Lady of Guadalupe, radiantly beautiful and clothed in a mantle covered in stars. So as you might have guessed, the bishop had a chapel built on that hill as our Blessed Mother Mary had asked. The tilma was venerated there and soon attracted many visitors and pilgrims. Juan Diego lived the rest of his life in a small house next to the chapel, telling anyone who visited the story of the beautiful lady and showing them her miraculous image. Our Lady of Guadalupe, as she came to be known, is among the most recognized and most beloved images of our Blessed Mother anywhere in the world. She is the patroness of the Americas and is particularly venerated in Mexico, where she is today known as the mother of all those who come to her for help and protection. Yes, what, Wilma?
I'm so sorry. I typed up that section that Ryan just read, and it was spelled as Vilma, Wilma, anything but Tilma. And I'm like looking at the keyboard going, how did I mistype that like so many different ways? It's not just one, like one with the W's. They're different parts of the keyboard altogether. Whew. I think I'm tired. But anyways, I like that story a lot. And I got a lot more out of it putting it together myself. As we've talked about many times, you hear something a bunch of different ways, a bunch of different times. And it's like the number of times that he had to go back and forth to the bishop and have faith that Mary was a real apparition that he was seeing. It also reminds me of Jesus saying like 3 times you'll deny me. Because isn't it 3 times, I think, that you read that he went like back and forth to the priest at least. And the roses growing in like there's so much to it, but the roses growing in like the rockiest part of the hill is good imagery for when things are really hard. Beautiful things can come out of it. And if you're looking for a sign, you might find it in the most unlikely of places. Just liked all that.
I like that story too. It's one of my favorites.
I'm sure you heard it more growing up than I probably did.
Well, I think we had, I want to say that there was some type of video or something. My mom had all of these older Christian videos, and they kind of like blend together, because I know there was the Bible ones that were produced by Hanna-Barbera, and I don't think it was necessarily one of those, but there was also one that she had that was like the story of St. Nicholas, and it was their version of Ben-Hur, and I cannot remember for the life of me what these were called, but I want to say there was a Juan Diego one, because I remember that story very well.
That's neat. December 13th is St. Lucy. We think she was alive from 283 AD to 304 AD. St. Lucy was from Syracuse, Sicily. Her mother suffered from an illness. Lucy persuaded her mom to pray at the tomb of St. Agatha, and her mother was healed. Lucy then revealed to her mom she intended to remain a virgin. When she rejected a suitor The suitor informed the governor that Lucy was a Christian. She was arrested. She was punished horribly with the intention that she would abandon her vows to Christ, but Lucy stood firm. She was executed for her faith and revered as a martyr. St. Lucy's feast day is a Scandinavian favorite, where winters are colder and darker than most other places on Earth. The name Lucy means light, so her midwinter feast is a Scandinavian. Her midwinter feast in Scandinavian countries is a reminder of the coming of Jesus, the light of the world, at Christmas, which is a few days after her December 13th feast day.
December 14th is St. John of the Cross. And St. John of the Cross was alive from 1542 to 1591. Born in Spain, he became great friends with the doctor of the church, St. Teresa of Avila, and became a doctor of the church himself. He was born in 1542 and was known as a mystic, a poet, and an artist. He also became a Carmelite. There were concerns about the Carmelites at the time he was considering joining the order, as the Carmelite monasteries had become lax and less devout. But his great friend Teresa of Avila was trying to reform the Carmelites and lead them back to the way they had promised to live. Some Carmelites were firmly set against any reform, so the Pope at the time approved a separation of the Carmelite order, and the Reformed order went by the name of Discalced Carmelites. Discalced meaning shoeless, because they wore simple sandals instead of shoes. St. John wrote many beautiful poems, later collected into volumes such as Ascent of Mount Carmel, Dark Night of the Soul, and a spiritual canticle of the soul and the bridegroom of Christ. The Dark Night of the Soul is particularly important and is a poem that describes the soul's painful journey through the purification, otherwise known as the dark night, to reach union with God. Dark Night of the Soul is a difficult thing to fully explain, but I do remember when I worked at Tan Books years ago, we have an edition of the Dark Night of the Soul, and I understand that is a very, very difficult text to read and one that requires a lot of concentration and perseverance, because people that have finished it really felt like they were put through the ringer. And makes sense considering what the subject matter is about, purifying the soul. Very similar in the way that we believe in, well, you may not go to hell when you die, you might go to purgatory. And in purgatory, there is that middle ground about not quite being purified enough to get into heaven. And the Dark Night of the Soul shares some DNA with that thought process.
Yeah.
So
I hadn't ever looked up the poem. I looked it up while I was researching for today, and I recommend reading it. It's a good one.
Yeah.
It's poignant.
Big time.
As you would think with that subject matter. The last one we wanted to talk about will be a couple of days early for when the episode comes out. Las Posadas begins on December 16th. Las Posadas is a novena celebrated in Mexico, other parts of Latin America, and people of Latin American origin living anywhere else. Las Posadas in English means the inns. The novena features people who dress as Mary and Joseph, looking for a place to stay in Bethlehem. Each night, they lead a procession to a different home in the community, singing traditional songs and praying the rosary. Once the visitors arrive at the home, there's a special song that alternates between the people playing Mary and Joseph and the hosts of the house, where the couple sing their need for a place to stay, and the innkeepers, the owners of the house, sing to ask questions of them. At the end of this back and forth, everyone sings to welcome the excuse my mispronunciation, but Santos Peregrinos
Yep.
or
Just like the bubbly water.
Peregrino, Holy Pilgrims. And the doors of the home are opened. The evening ends with children breaking a piñata shaped like a 7-pointed star, each point representing the 7 deadly sins, which are broken when Joseph and Mary are granted a place to stay, or when the hosts of the house welcome them in. The final night of the novena often ends at a church just before the Christmas midnight mass celebration. I only said it once. I don't know why it's a tongue twister. I didn't know about that one. Did you already know about that one?
No. Every year that I remember going to St. Joseph's long ago when I was living at home with my folks, we would always do the Cribbit Greccio or the Greccio play.
What's that?
It's essentially like a retelling of the story with the wise men and Mary being at the inn and so on and so forth. But it was with live animals. And
what?
Yeah, you'll have to ask John about it because John was always Joseph.
Did he have to like sit next to these live animals?
Yeah, there's pictures of him and his getup, his Joseph getup.
How do they get these? What kind of live animals? Because I'm picturing like donkeys and sheep and
they had a lot of animals like that.
But how do they? Those are not like you sit like a dog. Please stay.
Very docile, very docile.
Wow.
And we had we always did it at the Catholic Conference Center, which I think is in.
That's in Hickory, right?
No, I think it's like Maiden.
Oh,
it's a little ways away.
There's something else in Hickory too. Catholic something center.
Yeah.
Interesting.
There's enough room out there. There's enough like, maybe it is Hickory. I don't know why I thought it was. But there's enough room out there. It's almost like farmland to some degree. And there's a barn. So we would just do it right next to the barn.
There's enough room at the inn.
Correct. Yep.
Sad joke.
But that's where it happened. Why the heck did I think it was somewhere else?
That's so cool. Maybe they moved it. Like maybe it was somewhere else when you were a kid.
No, it's exactly the same. I'm looking at pictures of it right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe it was the feeling of the season. You felt you had to travel farther than you did.
This is true.
Were you part of this?
Yeah.
Who were you in this play?
One of the wise asses or the wise men.
Really?
Yeah.
Why have I never heard about this? What was it called?
The Crib at Greccio.
Greccio. What's Greccio mean? That sounds Italian.
Yeah. So the Crib at Greccio refers to St. Francis of Assisi's creation of the first ever living nativity scene in 1223 Greccio, Italy.
Cool.
To vividly recall Jesus' birth, featuring a real manger, hay, an ox, and a donkey, culminating in a mass where some say a miraculous vision of the baby Jesus appeared. So I don't know that we ever saw a vision, but there was definitely a donkey. I'm pretty sure there were sheep.
I'm sure it was a vision for everybody
also might have
watching.
been, I don't know that we had an ox, but there was definitely like a cow or something.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, we did it for multiple years.
I wonder how, like, if it was the same people who provided the animals too, or if they like had to search out each animal.
Well, because there's farmland there, I think that there are actual, like, I think that they do have animals there in the.
Yeah.
Yeah. 'Cause I think there actually might be a couple priests that have retired out to that area too, because it's like many acres, if I remember correctly.
And the priests have a farm, or you mean just in the area there are priests?
I think the priest that used to be the pastor at St. Aloysius, Father Sheridan, might live out there. I think he might have horses or something, or take care of animals. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
I think that would be cool in retirement. You and I have a little bit of a difference of
horses,
opinions of animals and farmland.
You'd have a sheep. Okay with a sheep.
Just one
Just one.
to play with Leo, our dog.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they would jump around the same way.
Well, this is good. This is I'm glad that we were able to go through this. So thank you for putting this together. This has been a good look at some of the different things that are happening this month, and that's only half of it too.
Keep us in the joy of the season. I felt.
Yeah, sometimes you need to kind of like slow down, I think, and take all of that in.
Yeah, exactly. Be appreciative for the time that we're in.
Mm-hmm.
As difficult as that is with the worldly experiences.
So, with that, thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed listening to the different saints that are going to take place in a part of this month. And we'll probably be back with more here in the next week or so.
We didn't say who we were at the beginning.
I don't think people wondered.
They just know us now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Something about
Catholics.
there you
Follow
go.
us on Instagram now, please. And all
Do
of the
it.
places. Do it.
Do it,
Subscribe,
especially as we go
follow.
into this next year. Get us to leave this year strong and get into the next one even stronger.
We need you. Share us with your friends.
All of them.
Be our friend.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you.